Hello, everyone. Welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Hambar. I'm doing my Liam's Leapings this week, number 57 for the 30th of September 2023. Excuse the inflated mattress in the background. My sister-in-law is spending the night tonight in this room, so I'm recording this. She's going to come in here probably. But this is just where I tell you what I wrote and what I read this week. I'll start off with my writing because it's generally much shorter and easier to talk about. I wrote a little bit of a cyberpunk story. In fact, I actually probably wrote most of it. It's really messy. I need to edit it a lot. And it's mostly from my angst of, essentially being unemployed. I've been looking for a job for like the last 3 months. I've been graduated for the last two of those. Money is exceptionally tight. I just turned in my rent today. Not sure I can afford next month. So the job is annoying. It's exceptionally annoying because it's one, I'm not getting any job, really. I'm not getting a job I want. And then I'm not getting any job, even a job I don't want, exactly right. Just a job to have a job. I have a job, but it gives me like 10 hours a week, which is nothing. So yeah, anyways, so I put that in angst into a cyberpunk story. It makes me, I feel pretty useless. I'm pretty anxious, obviously. But I have been reading good things, which helps. I guess there's some good escapism there for you. Hopefully, I don't end up on the street with my family. But I don't mean to be dramatic or focus too much on that or to be negative. But anyways, they're real fears, to an extent, right? So anyways, I read a lot less short stories this week, but I did finish four things. I finished Realms of Valor, which I think this last update, I had four stories left, so I finished those four. Whichever ones those were, I can't remember. But they're pretty good. I'll talk about them in my short story videos I've been doing. I came out with the first one on Wednesday, has no comments, but I assume people like the videos still to at least a degree because I don't have any angry comments. I also finished The Two Towers. Here's my big bind up. So The Two Towers and Realms of Valor I finished about a week ago, so shortly after I filmed my last recording, but I'm not sure when I'll start The Return of the King, actually, because I was reading The Lord of the Rings to my brothers, and my older brother finished The Two Towers for me, and my younger brother hadn't even started last I checked. So then there's a couple other books. Let's see that I finished. I finished Thor's Wrath by J.T.T. Ryder. I'm thinking I'll probably have a review for that up on Tuesday. The book just came out, probably on Tuesday. It's really short. It's a sequel to the Viking Gales saga, which I reviewed early this year. Great historical fiction. Really enjoyed it. And then the other fourth book I finished this week was Triplanetary by E.E. Smith or E.E. Doc Smith, or I don't remember his E's stand for. He actually lived in Idaho for a good chunk of his life. That's where I live right now. But this is it's book one in the Lensman series, which got second in 1966, I think, Hugo vote for best series of all time. The Foundation got first. Triplanetary is a weird, though, because it wasn't originally written as part of the Lensman series. It was a prologue, and then he reworked it. It was just its own standalone thing. He reworked it as a prologue to the Lensman series, and then he made a second book, which connects Triplanetary and the Lensman series. So the third Lensman book, which is called Galactic Patrol, I think, is the real first one. And I can kind of see that because Triplanetary wasn't terrible, but it wasn't that good either. Yeah, so I finished those four things: Realms of Valor, The Two Towers, Thor's Wrath, and Triplanetary. I also got through most of Worldbinder. In fact, I would have finished this today, but I stopped myself so I could have something for sure finished next week, by David Farland. This is really wild. The fifth book was kind of like a intermission between the first four Rune Lord books and then the next three, I guess. And so this one's really wild, though. As you can kind of tell, there's people with wings in this one. People die and worlds are bound together. That this title tells you that, obviously. And then I also started Stoner. I don't have a physical copy of this one. This is by what is it? Who is it by, actually? Whoever it's by. John Williams? I don't remember. John Williams? No, that can't be that. I don't know. It is John Williams. Okay. This is an interesting story. It's basically biographical, but fiction, of course, so kind of historical fiction, but at the same time, uh, it's kind of contemporary when it was written and released in 1965. So, but it's like a university novel. I'll have more words for it when I finally review it several months from now, of course, and probably when I finish it, assumingly this week. It's not very long. This one has mostly been recommended a lot by Joanna from Joanna Reads, or Joanna, maybe whatever her channel's called. Joanna's awesome, of course, but Stoner is interesting so far. I like it. I'm not like blown away. I'm not like super engrossed, but I am enjoying it. It's not what I normally read, but I think it should be fine. And then those are the two novels I was really working on this week. I did finish all the fiction in New Edge, Sword and Sorcery issue 1. If you remember last week, I read I read Folk of the Forest, which is Michael Moorcock story, which is actually the last fiction piece. So I read all the other ones this week. I still need to read the fiction. Reviews for that will probably come out a couple weeks from now, and then I have to read issue 2 as well. That'll probably be a separate review. And then this week, I think it was the only book I got this week, actually. Well, I got the big book of Cyberpunk. This came out on Tuesday, the same day I was in a discussion with Christopher Rocchio and Jordan from iWizard on the Sun Eater channel, which is Christopher's channel. And then the big book of Cyberpunk came out that day. I got it the next day. I'm only a few stories in, but I'm thinking actually what's likely to happen is I will be doing a series of videos, kind of like I am on my short stories, with a guest. That's the plan. You probably don't know who the guest is, so I mean, his name's Tim. If Tim's watching this, but that's the hope. That's the idea. But I got to read more of these, and I need to solidify maybe a day, maybe next weekend. So it wouldn't be this Wednesday's video, but maybe the week after that we'll talk about maybe the first section, because this bad boy is over 1,000 pages long. So of Cyberpunk stories. So that should be exciting. I actually forgot to put it on my list, actually, but I did start another novel. It's advertised as novella, but it is 80,000 words, which is longer than what we normally call a novella, of course. That is, I actually told him he should announce it, and he did today, so I can say it. But I've known the name of this Lorien novella. It's Sun Eater novella, right, for a while, at least a couple weeks, maybe about a month. The Dregs of Empire, I guess what it's called, and he announced the title of it today. So I was like, you better announce it so I don't actually like spill the beans on the title, because I forget that it's not announced technically, right? Because I've seen the covers too. In fact, I saw the Anderita cover, which hasn't even been announced yet, and that's how I knew the titles of the novella. And then he got the final cover for the standalone version yesterday, and he announced it today, which is probably why he was waiting for that to announce it. But yeah, anyways, so I forgot to mention this last week, but I'm going to go over the short stories I read. I read the Electronic Dan trilogy, which was really good. I mentioned the comment last week because I forgot to put it in my notes, but I forgot a few things, but I forgot to mention that one. That was really fun by Jeremy Fee. I'm not going to tell you much about it because it sounds like he's revising it some. I need to reply to an email, actually. That reminds me. But I really, really enjoyed it. It doesn't need revisions, Jeremy. I'm just joking. Feel free to revise it, of course, as you see fit. But then also, again, I'm in a Lovecraft class, so I read The Festival by Lovecraft. Also read The Temple, which was not required for class. Then I read The Unnameable by him, The Call of Cthulhu, which is pretty cool to finally read, and then The Silver Key. The other stories I read was The Bible Repairman by Tim Powers. I can't remember who recommended this one to me. It was either Christopher Rocchio or DJ Butler. I can't remember which one it was. I feel like it was Christopher. Either way, it was a very fun story. And then I also read A Deeper Darkness by David Farland, which is an Ataltis story, kind of like the Larry Correia and Aaron Evans stories I read before that. And then I read That State of Awful Woundedness by DJ Butler, which is very interesting. World War I Hiram Woolley story about a Book of Mormon scripture, funnily enough. I read A Pail of Air by Fritz Leiber. This one is fun. I've heard a lot of things. There's a lot of Fritz Leiber stories. I'm just like, I need to read that. And there's so many of them, so I haven't read all of them. Pail of Air was really cool because it takes place in a future where Earth has become a rogue planet, and water froze, and then all the atmosphere froze. And so, they scoop off oxygen nicely. It's on the top, right? Or basically on the top. You scoop off the oxygen. There's a little layer of helium, right? and then you go inside and you thaw your oxygen so you can breathe. It's really cool, honestly. It's very fun. Uh, I guess post-apocalyptic story. And then I also read Coming Attraction by Fritz Leiber, which is another banger. It's actually in that big book of cyberpunk, so I'm just going to reread it again here in like a month or two, and I'm really looking forward to it because this was a 1950 story, and it very much has some very cyberpunk stuff. There's microwaves. Microwaves were invented in the 40s, but they didn't become household objects, I believe, until like uh, the 60s, and then popularized in the 70s and 80s. It has weird stuff like fish hooks on cars that people drive by and use to snatch skirts off women. Women wear masks everywhere. It's kind of weird, at least in the United States, right? And then women also wrestle men on like television, which you can watch anywhere essentially. Um, and then this one girl has knife, basically fingernails, which is exactly like Molly Millions, right? And Neuromancer. So just weird stuff like that. I thought it was a great story though. And then I read A Strange Loop by T.R. Napper, which is a cyberpunk story. T.R. Napper actually has a story in this, the big book of cyberpunk. It's one in this collection, Neon Leviathan, that I haven't read yet, actually. Um, and then I also read Olive Garden by Tristan A. Gilmore, which is just a funny story. Um, and then I read The Horla by Guy de Maupassant. Horla was an inspiration for the Call of Cthulhu. It also seemed a little, the dream theme seems to be a little bit of an inspiration for the Silver Key as well. But I think Silver Key would be more of a, it's Dreamlands, which seems more Dunsany inspired. And then I read, lastly, because not in these books, I read Passage to Dolfar. So I think I'm going to mention the very first story in the big book of cyberpunk in probably my fourth 25 short story video, which I don't know, maybe people don't like those, but I do whatever I want. And because that fits. I also, number 100, I technically read was the second story in here, but I mostly want to leave my thoughts for this huge volume for my videos with Tim. So that reminds me, let me go message Tim. And yeah, I had other stuff, I'm sure, going on. I have a lot of books around me, but right now I'm gonna go watch Blade Runner 2049. That's right, I watched Blade Runner actually this week, so that was a cool movie. It didn't blow me away, but I did enjoy it, and I could see myself watching it again for sure. Tears in Rain was worthwhile for the whole thing, probably. But I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see how 2049 is, because the consensus actually seems to be that 2049 is the better movie. So we'll see if I don't fall asleep. It's kind of late for me. Maybe I wake up early actually for work normally, but Liam from Williams Lyceum, let me know what you've read. Sorry if my complaining about work has annoyed anyone. I guess I should say, if you have like an opportunity for someone, I mean, like, resumes seem to suck. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, you might be qualified, but it doesn't give you the person, and the people want the person. And so I like to think I'm good at just about anything. Obviously, I'm not qualified for certain things. Obviously, I couldn't be a nurse, but otherwise, I essentially have an English degree, right, which qualifies you for a lot of stuff, in my opinion. Almost like a business degree, kind of. I don't know. I always saw the humanities degree for. I know it's arts related, arts focused, but it seemed like a good, like, English business mix, kind of. I don't know why. It teaches you the soft skills that businesses want. Anyways, so sorry, Liam's from Liam's Lyceum. I'll catch you next time.